Nobody expects to go to work to fall off a ladder, but of course these things happen. In fact, on average, each year some 13 people die and 1,200 people suffer serious damage and injury from ladder-related incidents at work. No wonder why in 2005 the Health and Safety Executive tightened up their regulation on ladder use at work. The regulation sparked controversy as to whether ladders were banned. Is that the case? Are ladders banned? Do some research yourself at the HSE website and you will see clearly that ladders have not been banned. The working at height regulations do mean that ladders should only be used if no safer alternative is viable. Are there safer options? Can windows be cleaned without the use of ladders? Well, as we alluded to in our last DVD presentation, the future for window cleaners is to use water-fed pole systems. We will be answering questions such as, how does a water-fed pole system work? How do we use it? And how do we go about choosing the best water-fed pole system for your needs? Allow me to introduce you to Peter Fogwell, who's been a window cleaner for over 25 years, very experienced. But how long have you been using the water-fed pole systems?
I've been using the water-fed poles for the last 5 years.
Oh, right, so obviously you know what you're talking about. So, how does it all work?
Well, it's just a case of purifying the water, pumping it up through a pump, up to the brush, scrubbing the glass and rinsing at the same time.
Okay. So you mentioned there about purifying the water. Does that mean you're using chemicals?
No, we're using the exact opposite. We're taking the chemicals out of the water. So it's just purified water in the glass. When the water evaporates, there's nothing left behind.
Oh, I see. Well, okay, then you've got us intrigued. Let's see how it works.
Yeah. And that's how easy it is.
Oh, very good, Pete. That was easy, but I mean, it's still dripping. You're going to leave it like that, are you?
Yeah. Because we've took all the impurities out of the water, when that water evaporates, it's going to be a really good finish.
Oh, very good. I must say that's excellent. But what's the difference between me just getting the garden hose and spraying it like that and leaving it like that? I mean, it's the same thing, isn't it?
Well, the garden hose has got a lot of impurities in it. It's hard water, hardness in the water. And if you done that, it would, once the water evaporated, the impurities would be left behind, and they would show up as white marks on the glass.
Ah.
Because we've taken them away to start with, there's nothing going to be left there on the glass.
Okay.
It's just going to dry in.
All right, I got you. So, how do we go about purifying the water then?
Well, we can show you that now if you want.
Okay.
Right, this is a typical 5-stage water treatment system.
So the 5 stages, what exactly are the 5 stages?
Well, you've got the first 3 stages here, which are pre-filters, and they're protecting the membranes which are in here. And then they're purifying to between 94 and 98%. The water then comes through there into a small DI, which will purify it down to 0.
Okay, just a quick aside, what's this thing here?
That's your TDS meter. It's just monitoring the system, lets you know when things need changed, filters.
So you've got this as a... Right, gotcha. So this is your whole component, but there's always a cost factor and a wear-out factor on these things, and what are those?
Well, 2006 prices, you're talking for the 3 of these filters together, you're talking cost you £20. The membranes themselves, £30 each. This particular one's a 200 gallon per day. It has 2 membranes. It cost you £30 each. They're renewed 2.5-3 yearly basis. then it goes to the small DI, maybe £5 every month.
Oh, £5 every month, I see. Okay, so your water's there, but it has to go somewhere. Where does the pure water go?
Well, the pure water comes out of this pipe, and you can either go straight into a water container, or maybe if you've set up a water storage tank.
So, should we have a look at the tank then?
Yeah. So this is a typical van setup. What we have here is a 500 litre baffled tank, pump for pumping the water through the hose reels up to the brush.
Goodness me, that's half a tonne of weight you've got there. There's a lot of water sloshing around. What about the payload?
Yeah, well, this particular van's got over 1,000 kilogram payload, so taking into consideration your other equipment that you're carrying, it's well within the limits. The reason we have the baffled tanks is so that the water's not sloshing around. When you put your foot in the brake, you want the van to stop, not to carry on going. So it's got to be a baffled tank.
So with 500 litres of water, how much work would that last you for?
500 litres will typically do one person for a full day's work, depending on how efficient the user is.
So this is a typical van system, but I noticed you were using a trolley earlier. Is that another option?
It is, yeah.
Okay, can we go and have a look?
Yeah, no problem.
So when would you use a trolley system as opposed to a van system?
Well, the biggest advantage with the trolley system is for the window cleaner that uses his family car for window cleaning. It saves them having to go and buy a van to carry all the equipment. Everything here just fits neatly in the back of the car. It's also handy for hard to reach places, internal courtyards, things like that.
Okay, I understand. And the tanks, how long do the tanks last?
Well, the two tanks will last probably about an hour's work.
An hour's work, I understand.
And that's, both tanks together is 50 litres, 25 litre tanks.
Oh, I see, yes. And I'm guessing, is this the battery?
Yeah, that's just there to run the pump.
Ah, so does that make that the pump then?
It does, yeah. I can show you in a bit more detail.
So this is our pump box. Could you just explain about this, Peter?
Well, basically you've got an inlet side, and you've got the outlet side, you've got a switch here for turning the pump on and off, and you've got a control valve here for reducing the pressure at the brush.
I guess from here the water is pumped to the pole and brush. Should we go and have a look at that?
Yeah.
So we've got our pure water, and we've got our pump, and now we've got the poles. How does it all work?
Well, basically we're just pumping water through a tube up to your brush.
And then you apply it to the window. I understand. So what kind of poles are there available for us?
Well, this is an alloy pole. We have Alex over there is using the glass fibre pole.
Alex, okay, let's go and see. So this is the fiberglass pole.
That's right, Steve. This is telescopic fiberglass, slightly different to the other pole, as it extends with these clamps, which fasten back in place like so. With this one, the tube goes up the inside, comes out of the top, goes into the two jets of the brush, soft pressure brush, jet out the water. This is an 18 foot. They do go up a lot bigger, but when they do go up past 30, 40 foot, they start going into carbon fibre, which is a totally different material. It's a lot more rigid and such.
Does the same job as the
It
other
does
one?
exactly the same job, mate.
Okay, thanks. So, what are the results like? Well, it looks pretty good to me, Pete. No smudges or smears or drips at all.
Yeah, spotless.
Excellent. Yeah, it seems pretty easy to me. You literally just go up and down with a wet brush. Is it as simple as that?
Well, there is a bit of technique involved, and we can have a look at that now, if you like.
Okay, so we've seen how the water-fed pole system operates. Now let's see how we can use it effectively. are at the job. We're just waiting for Alex to turn up. Do you think it's going to take long to set up?
No, not at all.
No, we'll just find... Oh, look, here he is. So we'll see how long it does take for him to set up and how he tackles the windows.
Yeah. So what Alex is doing is taking the hose to the furthest away point, so when he's working back he's no dragging the hose behind him.
Is that what you always do then?
Most of the time, yeah.
Okay. So he's cleaning away there. Can you just describe the sort of techniques that what he's actually doing to get to all parts of the window and the frames?
Well, what he's doing first is he's taking care of the top of the frame, making
Uh-huh.
sure that's cleaned. Then he's doing the sides, just again making sure they're clean as well.
Right.
And then he's going to go up to the top of the glass and just work his way on the glass to the top, all the way down to the bottom.
Right, I gotcha. So what happens if it's really filthy, the glass? What do you do then?
Well, it's just a case of you maybe have to go over it twice.
Okay.
Normally the problems that we get with having to do it twice is on a first clean, because there's a build-up of soap on the glass for previous cleans traditionally with a squeegee.
Oh,
We have to get rid of all that soap first.
right, okay.
So what we normally do is give the whole window frames a good scrub down,
Yeah,
maybe go to the end of the building, come back and just concentrate on the glass after that.
and that's usually enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if there's a bit of bird's muck on there, I mean, traditionally you just scrape it off with a scraper, but what do you do in this case?
Yeah, we can have a look at that later on some of the windows that have got birds that run it, but normally the pure water's enough to shift it, yeah.
Oh, very
You've
good.
also got the brush as well, which is more aggressive than a window cleaner's applicator, so
Ah.
the bristles of the brush can work that as well.
Uh-huh,
And
gotcha.
it's normally, unless it's really baked on, it's normally enough just with a rub over with the brush to dislodge it. And once any particle has been dislodged, it's just a case of the water rinses it down to the bottom and off the glass.
Right.
As long as the particle's been moved in the first place, then the water's just going to take care of it. Then.
Right. Well, he's moved on to the next window now, Peter. And I noticed the window's open. How do you deal with that?
Well, just by tapping the bottom of the window with the brush is enough to close most windows. So normally, if a window's open, you can close it with the brush.
Oh, simple as that.
Yeah.
Okay.
See the ripple effect you've got here on the window? This is what we call sheeting, also known as the curtain effect, which can vary from different types of window. You'll notice with this window that the water reacts differently. We call this the beading effect. And the reason for this is because this glass is hydrophobic and the glass that sheets is hydrophilic. So we'll do this window again. If you notice the technique I'm using, as I said, it's hydrophobic glass, so it's going to take a slightly different technique. First we're getting into the tops of the window, and as we come down we're doing more of a zigzag motion on the way down, and that helps the water flow down the glass.
Well, we're at the other end of the building now. It's a lot more glass and it's a much higher up. The guys have started working. You can see we've got the trolley in action. So we're just going to find out what technique they're going to use. So Peter, we've made a start. Just work us through it. What are you actually doing now?
Well, what we're doing is we're working our way along the top frames, making sure that we clean the bar in between the top frames and the top windows and the ones underneath.
Right.
We'll get them out of the way first, then we'll drill the holes and we'll get the ones underneath.
So you're always sort of working your way downwards, as it were.
Yeah, you want to work your way down, bringing all the dirt down with you.
So working layers, as it were.
Yeah.
So I noticed on that window, Pete, that there's some bird's muck, and you said you were going to tell us how to deal with that with the water-fed poles.
Yeah, normally what you would do is when you see the bottom up there, you would just give it a little soak, a little brush over, just to agitate it a bit. Most of the time it will just come off right away. If it is stubborn dirt, then you'd maybe move on to the next window and come back to it in a minute or so. It looks like it's just took that first time.
Right.
So there's no problem with it.
So
If it had been
you just come back if it's really stubborn.
yeah, you would see it still there and you would just come back after you had done another window.
You're holding your tube here like that. Why is that?
Yeah, there's a good reason behind that, Steve. It's actually to lessen the trip hazard, because obviously if you've got hose dragging everywhere, you sort of gets under your feet, etc.
Oh, I see.
Sort of keep it as tidy as you can. And
Just health and safety, really.
that's right, mate.
Common sense.
And as we're using bigger poles now, as you see earlier, we're using the 18, we're using a 30, so we have to adopt a whole different technique. We sort of use our whole body
Yeah.
in the scrub motion to agitate the dirt.
Yeah.
So we ain't just using our arms, you see. And then for the rinse, we sort of step to this side
Uh-huh.
and sort of do a little step side to side
I see.
to get the rinse perfect.
So you've got the clean and then the rinse.
That's right, mate. Yeah, you scrub, you agitate the dirt, and then you rinse down.
I noticed that Alex was holding the hose next to the pole, but I noticed you don't. Any reason why?
Well, it's not so necessary, it's not so much a trip hazard on a trolley system. The pipe's connected to the pump box and it's going straight up to the window. Whereas in Alex's case, he's having to trail long hoses. He's got to get the water from the van to the windows and he's taking it from the trolley to the windows. So the hose isn't so much a hazard. So now that I'm starting on the bottoms now, I don't need the whole 5 sections of pole. So I can just take away 2 sections, leave them aside, and I'm always working that bit lighter. So what I'm doing now is just working my way down the head height. Then easily just take the grip of the pole and carry on working with the brush in my hand. Again, it's a bit safer if we're walking past the pole than going back.
We've got a limited supply of water, Pete. Wouldn't it be a good idea, or isn't it possible to perhaps have just done the tops using the water-fed poles and the bottom layer using the traditional method?
Yeah, if water is an issue, then that can be done. The only problem is, if you did want to do it with a water-fed pole, next time you've got that layer of soap that the squeegee is going to leave behind. So you've got to probably give it a more thorough clean to wash all that soap away. So, but if water is an issue, then it's okay to do them traditional. It's probably quicker with a water-fed pole.
Right, another thing, Steve, we've got all this water on the ground. This could be a potential hazard, especially in winter.
Oh,
So what we'll do is we'll just lay down a little bit of salt just on the hazardous areas, and that will stop any freezing.
Oh, that's a good idea, yeah. So we've seen the 18 foot, we've seen the 25 foot pole, but this pole that we see on the floor is 40 feet long, and it's obviously harder to handle. So the question is, how can we get this pole safely up into the air without causing any hazards to anyone?
Right. With a pole this size, Steve, we have to raise it vertically along the ground because some of the sections are bigger than 6 foot and they're harder to reach as opposed to a normal pole where we could raise it up the wall.
Right.
So we raise this along the ground, checking all the sections are tight before we raise it, checking all the clamps, etc. And then it's usually a two-man job over 40 foot, one to steady it at the bottom, the next one to walk it up much as you do a ladder.
Right.
I'll demonstrate here for you now if you like.
Okay, yeah.
And you basically just walk it up, and it will bend a lot, but that is just how the pole goes, you see. But, quite strong,
Okay, very good. Well, that is very high up in the air, isn't it? What sort of level would that take you to in a building?
That's about fourth floor, Steve.
Fourth floor?
Yeah, fourth
Wow.
floor.
Okay.
And as I say earlier, they do get bendier when you get higher, but
Right.
the operator will learn how to use the bend in the pole.
And when you finish the job, I mean, you can't sort of lower it down like that because
No,
that's
no.
too dangerous.
Yeah.
So how do you lower it?
We bring it back out so we can reach the sections.
Uh-huh.
As I said earlier, some sections are like 12 foot long,
Uh-huh.
so we bring it right back and then we can reach the sections.
Oh, of
We
course,
just
yeah.
bring it back as if we was raising a normal size pole.
Gotcha.
Like so. Right, so we're pulling into a little cul-de-sac now. Firstly, we want to look for a strategic parking place so we can access all of the houses with our 100-metre hose. Over time, you'll learn to gauge the length of your hoses so you can roughly estimate how far they'll get you. As you can see, this is all well within 100 metres, front and backs. Right, Mark, this is the first clean. First we'll just shut this window, make sure we don't get no water in there. As this is a domestic house, as you see earlier, we was doing commercial. Don't get too much of a go over as you would this. You're going to really get these frames up nice. Just take your time on first things, making sure you get them up right. There is that higher risk of spotting, etc. So getting all in these cross frames. It's mainly the top of the frame and these cross frames that leads to spotting, etc. Good control over the poles is a good point. Making sure you're not waving it about everywhere and clipping the side of these walls and knocking bits off and stuff. Side frames only need a little go over. Like I say, it's mainly the cross frames. With the side frames, just give them a little go over. Even on the first clean, they ain't too much of a problem. This is a little trick I use. Clean your brush after you've done the cross frame. Just give it a good old scrub in there, and that's your brush clean. Start with a rinse, doing the scrub first, agitating the dirt and rinsing it down, making sure you've got full coverage. As I said, this is a domestic house rather than earlier when it was on commercial premises, so you want to really give it a good rinse, especially on the first clean as well. Rinsing the top, and then as you've done all the tops, by the time you get to the one over here, you see there's no dripping, no more drips coming down. These windows are flowing quite nice. Keep the brush on the window as we rinse. You don't need to spend the whole day giving it a few rinses and stuff, just the one scrub and one rinse will be sufficient. Another advantage to this system is you can reach previously inaccessible windows, which would usually be dangerous and risky from a ladder. Right, this is another hard to reach window. As you can see, the fence is close to the wall, so it would be a hard angle with a ladder. The only disadvantage with doing these windows, because of the close angle, you do get a little bit wet at times. So sometimes it's an idea to charge these as an extra and not do them every month, and do them every couple of months. As you can see, with this wooden decking, this would be extremely risky putting a ladder on, especially if it was wet. And with this window, this isn't a first clean, this has been done monthly, so we don't need to really go over it as we did the other one you saw earlier. You can see the glass is slightly beading. Just need to take that into account when we're rinsing. As you can see, this one is beading terribly bad, but it's still beading. It's nice when it sheets, but it's not necessary. You still get a good finish with the beaded glass. Just rinsing that down, still with the brush on. Just chase the beads down with the wave. Right, so. Also, water-fed poles have other uses. We can clean conservatory roofs, white fascias, PVC, etc. all from the safety of the ground, so it ain't dangerous like using a ladder. I'll just show you now briefly on this white fascia here. Just the difference. As you can see, it's made a lot of difference. Just being clean, the water coming down is rather excessive. It's going to be contaminated off the dirt off the ground and drip back up into the window, so they are going to need to be done again, as I say, after the dripping time's been allowed. Right, what I would say, if there is two of you working on jobs, especially domestic, it's advisable for the one doing the tops to get ahead to allow dripping time, the contaminated water dripping down to the windows below. Right, another good idea. Put a little stop connector on the end of the hose joiner for users that ain't bolted their hose wheels in the back of the van, and that'll basically stop you losing water as you're reeling in, and it'll also stop you spilling excess water over the van floor when you're travelling to and from jobs. And as I said, we're keeping the hose wheel charged for the next job. As you can see, there's sufficient water left in the reel. We don't want to be wasting that over the bottom of the van. Here we've got two different types of hoses. The one on the left obviously being a lot thicker, which is standard 1/2 inch garden hose. And then on the right we've got microbore hose, which is a lot thinner, a lot easier to work with, pulls around corners nice, and it's also less of a trip hazard. The main advantage with this one, it's a lot lighter, which means it's easier to work with, reels in a lot easier. And I'll just show you the different types of connectors. This is what we call a microbore connector. This is a standard connector. These last a lot longer, being metal. These break a lot easier and they get caught on corners. So it's advisable to get decent hose and connectors. As you can see, this has got a Jubilee clip on, so it's a good idea to keep a screwdriver or spare connectors on you in case of emergencies that you need to change your connector.
Well, we've got the basic idea of the mechanics of how the water-fed pole system works. We've seen it in action, we've seen how to use it, we've seen that the results really are excellent, and clearly it's the way forward. But if you're watching this DVD for the first time and you're wondering which water-fed pole system to buy to start off your own business, well, which is the best one for you? Well, let's ask one of our experts here, Pete. Now, you're a supplier of water-fed poles. Now, what advice would you give to that kind of person?
Well, firstly I would just find out what sort of vehicle they had, what sort of water usage they were likely to use in a day, and just take it from there. Both systems do exactly the same thing at the end of the day.
So it's kind of impossible to say one's better than the other, it just depends on your needs type thing. So they're both very good, aren't they?
The budget as well.
Okay, alright. Now, another question that many people have asked, especially customers, is it better, the result? Are the results better by using the water-fed pole system than the traditional squeegee and mop method?
Well, personally I think the water-fed pole is better, but there will always be room for squeegee work. It is really down to the operator using the tool in hand. With squeegee work, I would say sometimes you do get drag lines, etc. from the squeegee. With water-fed pole you might get light spotting, but it's less noticeable than with squeegee drag lines and scrim lines, etc.
Now, we've looked at van and trolley systems, but I also noticed that there are backpack and trailer systems. So, Alex, what's your view on backpacks?
The backpack, they do have their advantages. They're good like the trolley for to access areas, terrace houses, etc. They are good to, they do complement the van system. I do use mine a lot to take through houses, etc. Yes, it's quite handy to have.
Right, okay. So that's backpacks. Now there's also the trailers. And Pete, what's your thoughts on the trailer systems?
Well, basically the trailer and the van systems are exactly the same. The biggest advantage with a trailer over a van system is you can take it to a job site, you can drop it off along with a worker, and you can be away doing something else while they work. Another thing is if you don't own a van, maybe have a tow bar on your car, you can still use a trailer on the back of your car.
Okay. So what's on everyone's mind at this stage is the big question of how much money do you need to buy one of the water-fed systems. So what's the initial outlay?
Well, you're talking for a trolley system of about £1,000. For a van or a trailer system, maybe £2,000. You can spend a lot more money than that.
But of course the running costs of any business are always there. Are there any other costs we haven't mentioned so far?
There are slight increases in costs with regards to the water use, etc. And then depending on what area you live in, if it's a soft or hard water area, as Peter mentioned earlier about the DI and the IRO process. And then there's insurance costs and stuff like that. But with the increased earnings earned from water-fed pole, they do sort of balance out the costs and the outgoings.
Is it faster than traditional window cleaning?
Yeah, you're talking about at least 50% faster, but it does depend on what type of windows you're doing. Georgian squares, leaded windows, the time saving on these type of windows is going to be much greater than the windows just behind you there.
Is there a problem in changing over from mop and squeegee to a water-fed pole system from the customer's point of view?
Not per se, but I would say there is a few problems. It's good to prime the customers up before the changeover, let them know what's coming, and there is good explanation letters in Cycle. There's a good one on the Window Cleaning Resources website. It's free to download and print off and give to your customers, and that basically explains exactly how it works, how the purified water works, which is a good idea really.
Okay, and once they see the results, I suppose.
And once they see the results, then they're happy.
They don't mind, yeah.
Yeah.
To summarise the benefits, of course with one of these systems it's so much faster, so we earn more money, so increased earnings. The privacy angle, we've not even mentioned these benefits, but there's no embarrassing looking through bedroom windows, and of course we can start earlier, there's no clatting around of noisy ladders. A third area that we haven't mentioned, but we can actually work whilst it's raining. Fourthly, the windows stay cleaner longer. Another major advantage is that we can reach windows that were previously inaccessible. For example, windows above the conservatory roof, that kind of thing. Sixthly, the frames are cleaned. Customers will be very happy about that. And last but definitely not least, the safety angle. There are no ladders, and that's a benefit to everyone. So we do hope that you've enjoyed watching this DVD concerning water-fed pole systems. So please, safe window cleaning, and thanks for listening.